so I'm Emma. I'm currently a CRM Exec at ASOS and a former Plymouth marketing student. I graduated in 2017, and then before that I'd done the 4-year course, so I had the placement year. And I spent my year in L'Oreal in London, which was a lot of fun. And then after uni, I was actually lucky enough to go back to L'Oreal. So I spent another year there in a marketing role, and then decided that actually I wanted to digress a bit more into digital. So I moved to Shiseido, which is also a makeup company, but a slightly kind of smaller scale one. And there I worked on their minerals as a brand, and I did loads of their social stuff, and then eventually moved into the online and email team, which is how I got to ASOS and CRM today.
Awesome. That sounds like you've had like quite a cool career path, and
So very
yeah,
social.
certainly some big brands there as well, which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
My first question I wanted to ask, because you did a L'Oreal internship, right?
Yeah.
Was that between your second and third year?
Yes, it's like a sandwich. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
How did you find? Because I did a placement at Enterprise Rent a Car.
Oh, I know a few people that have gone there. It's meant to
Oh
be
yeah,
amazing.
yeah. No, it was really good actually. I loved it. And I just wanted to know kind of in your final year, were you kind of keeping a relationship with them so that hopefully you could kind of graduate, or was it more like you kind of contacted them back at some point, or how did that work?
So it was a bit of a rogue one. So at the time, L'Oreal had a grad scheme that you could get onto if you'd done the internship.
Sure.
So I applied for it, and then I was placed in like the pool. So if they had a vacancy come up, they'd let you know. But actually, I'd kept a really good relationship with my line manager so I had a few line managers, but my initial line manager,
Sure.
and she moved to a different brand. And actually, like as I graduated, she had a marketing assistant vacancy come up. So I was really lucky in that she reached out to me and asked if I'd be interested.
Oh, amazing.
But I think like it's so important if you can to like, even if it's every now and then just checking in with them, like it saved me so much stress in my final year, because obviously like the grad scheme deadlines, they come around so quickly.
Yeah.
So I was really fortunate not to be in a position where I was having to like actively apply to loads of them.
Sure. Yeah, no, that sounds really good actually. Keeping a relationship with your line manager seemed like it paid dividends.
And
Yeah,
you
no.
never know where they're going to end up either. Like they might then move jobs into a new company, and that might be kind of where you cross paths.
Yeah. So just
yeah,
keeping that
definitely.
contact is just really
Yeah.
useful. Sweet. Cool. So so you moved on after how long were you at L'Oreal after graduation and things
So
like
I
that?
did another year there,
Mm.
and moved on because essentially to get promoted I had to go back and do the grad scheme.
Oh, I see.
But
Yeah.
obviously
So
I'd
it's kind
gone
of
in
double
as an
backing.
entry level role, so there
Yeah.
wasn't much point. And
Yeah.
I think
That's
at
fair
that
enough.
point I was ready for something new anyway. So
Yeah. No, that's cool. That's cool. Yeah. No, that actually that brings up a good point, because I know a lot of people, including me, that are looking at kind of grad schemes as well as kind of entry level roles and things like that. So I guess that's kind of one of the although it seems like there's lots of good opportunities where they're offering entry level roles, and maybe there's not the like after you've got the role you might have to double back or something like that. So yeah, I
I think
hadn't
it really
considered that.
depends on kind of what you want from your career.
Sure.
And I think I was so lucky on my placement year that I worked quite cross-functionally, so I understood quite well like how the business worked. And I think with grad schemes, you usually rotate to get that understanding. So I didn't feel
Yeah.
like there'd necessarily be the benefit there for me.
Yeah, that's a good
But
point.
actually, my housemate now, who was my best friend on the Plymouth Uni marketing course,
Oh
also
really?
works at ASOS. So
Oh wow.
she went into ASOS via the grad scheme, and we're now
Yeah.
both at exactly the same level. So I wouldn't say it's like
Oh
benefited or negatively
yeah.
impacted me in either way. It just means I've had like slightly different experience in different companies, so I can bring like new processes and things, whereas she like is ASOS inside out, so she knows like everything and anything about it. So it makes us
Sure.
a good team. So
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. You collaborate quite well,
yeah.
having both of those backgrounds. No, that's really cool. That's really cool. So I guess my next question's about kind of, you've worked across these quite big brands. What
Mhm.
is it like working for such big brands? I guess in comparison to, I don't know if you've worked for like smaller businesses and things like that. What would you say like the main difference is? I don't know. Just
I think even between L'Oreal and Bare Minerals, like the size was quite considerably different.
yeah,
But I think with big companies, they are really exciting, and there's always so much going on. So like my projects that I'm working on change, I'd say every 2 months. So it's
sure.
always something different, and I know that's so cliche, but it really is.
Yeah,
Um, and I think
no,
with
that's
the
right.
big brands as well, you can kind of, the expectations are really high, and it is really fast moving, but if you're willing to get stuck in, you can make such a difference. And usually like they can give you good investments. If you take an idea to them and you're like, I want to deliver this, they'll
Yeah,
give you a chance, which is really good.
yeah,
I
yeah. I
think with
guess
the
that.
smaller brands, sorry, carry on.
Yeah, no, I guess that, because that's what I guess I'd be concerned about if you're working for like a bigger brand, a bigger company, it's whether you get a say in a lot of the decisions. But sounds like they do
I
give you
think
that opportunity.
it's very easy not to have a say, but I think it's very much up to you at the end of the day. Like if you've got an idea, having the courage to take it forward, and at the end of the day, they might not want to do anything with it. And trust me, I've been in that situation a lot of times, but at least you tried. And I think it's
Yeah,
very much about that you're going to enjoy the role if you make it your own. So just put everything you can into it. Um,
yeah,
but yeah, it's
yeah.
good
That
fun
sounds.
and very social. So that's
Yeah,
always nice as well.
yeah. No, that's really cool. That's really cool. So now you're at ASOS, and I saw you're kind of in the CRM team.
Mm.
So what does that actually involve? I've seen like CRM positions around kind of consumer relationship management or
Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
Um,
So
it's kind of like a two-pronged sword. So on a day-to-day, I basically look after email and push campaigns for 16 global territories, which is a lot.
that's a
Um,
lot of regions.
it is, but it's really interesting, and you learn so much about like the way different countries shop and like operate and things like that. I didn't even know that half the holidays existed around the world, but they do.
Yeah,
Um,
that's a good point.
so on a day to
Yeah.
day, I'll execute the campaigns and then report kind of performance back to the wider business. So there's a lot of analytics involved in it.
Mm,
And then outside of the day to day, I also have my own projects that I run. So at the moment, I'm looking after content segmentation and targeting strategy for our face and body, like what would you call it, like the part of the business.
sure. Yeah.
Um, and that's really fun because I get to work with lots of external brands like Charlotte Tilbury, L'Oreal, like the things that are in my background anyway,
Yeah. Yeah.
and activate campaigns for them across the ASOS inventory. So that's really cool.
Uh,
And then I've also recently took an idea to our directors for a new loyalty proposition.
oh wow.
And they've given me investment to launch it. So at the moment, working with the design and copy team to kind of bring it to life. But it's a really
So
exciting project, but it is like, it is so varied.
so you have got that
And
kind
then
of
I guess,
contact with the senior leadership team as well. So
yeah,
that's
like
really good. Yeah.
generally you kind of, it is quite a hierarchical company, but if you've got an idea, they'll always give you the kind of sounding board to present if you want to.
Sure. Yeah, I guess with those bigger companies, they have kind of longer hierarchies. So sometimes it's hard to get in contact with those types of people, but sounds like you're
Yeah, for
doing it,
sure.
so that's pretty cool.
Thanks, it's good fun. I would
Yeah.
very much recommend it.
So my next question. So obviously we're in the middle of a pandemic. I
Yeah.
wondered how that's affecting the way you're working at ASOS at the moment. I presume you're kind of obviously, I guess you're working from home
Hmm.
most of the time. And has there been anything else kind of that you found that you didn't necessarily expect after the kind of, I'm sure there was maybe a few
It's
things.
been a tough one, and I'm not going to lie. At the beginning, I struggled. It felt very immoral to be emailing people saying, you know, please buy a dress from us, here's 20% off. I know everyone's sick, but you need this dress.
Yeah.
But we've had to kind of rethink our strategy a bit, but it's been really interesting to see how the business reacts.
Sure.
And whereas we'd usually take quite a proactive approach and that we want to like lead the way and like be the trendsetters, we've actually had to do like a lot more reactive communications. Obviously, we're a global brand, so every
Yeah.
country's been in a different position at a different time. So it's been a case of like constantly monitoring things. And I think more than ever, we've had to do loads of social listening and like customer surveys and things just to understand kind of what they want from the brand.
Sure.
So I guess that's our biggest change, and it obviously means that there's a lot of like last minute things like Italy, for example, had a really low week in sales, so we had to like turn on a promotion from them with like 10 minutes notice. So that was good fun.
Yeah.
But yeah, in terms of actual ways of working, like we're quite a digital company anyway. So when this all started, they basically emailed everyone and was like, what equipment do you want? So I wish I could turn my computer around, but I'm basically surrounded by monitors because I requested loads of screens. It's been good.
Oh wow, that's really cool. Yeah, your point about the territories as well, I hadn't thought about, because yeah, every
Yeah,
every country is really in a different kind of political situation with what they're doing in terms of their lockdown and things like that. So I guess that's
absolutely.
tough
And
to
even
monitor.
just in terms of like, there's been a lot of expectation in the fashion industry from like people like Misguided and PRT who are constantly manufacturing PPE. So there was the expectation for us to do that, and then
Oh yeah,
understanding like how. So one of our warehouses, our main one, is in Berlin,
sure,
and a lot of the workers come from Poland to work in Berlin. So
got it.
when they shut the border, that meant we had no workers, so we couldn't manufacture anything. So it's been really
Mm,
interesting, and just seeing how like different areas of the business have been affected as well.
mm,
It's definitely been a big learning curve.
yeah, yeah. No, I can imagine that's the if you can't manufacture your products, then it's a bit of a sticky
Yeah,
situation, really.
yeah,
Okay,
it's not
wow.
ideal.
So, in light of all of this,
Mm,
um, what do you have any? So you've kind of been through the process that a lot of students are kind of in at the moment, where they're kind of looking for that path um,
mm,
after graduation. Do you have any? I guess it's tough to give any specific advice now, but in terms of from your experience, do you have any advice for graduates looking for graduate jobs or jobs in general in marketing?
I think I'd say just don't panic if you can't find your dream job straight away. What I wanted to do when I left uni is wildly different to what I want to do now. So I think the things you do along the way will shape where you want to go next. It doesn't necessarily mean that you have to have like a 10-year plan. You're going to go like X, Y, Z, and that's how you'll get there.
Mm,
But also just try lots of different roles. Like marketing's so broad. You can work for a big firm, you can work for a small firm, you could work in a really niche role, you could work in a more varied role. And I think you can't really gauge how you'll feel in all of them until you've tried it. So definitely kind of take every opportunity you can. Um, and also just keep learning and keep like being on top of the industry. I did my Google AdWords and Google Analytics certification recently, and they're both free, they're
yeah,
online, and it just
yeah,
makes you stand out a lot more. Like a lot of the time when I've been to interviews, people will ask me about it.
mm,
And it's just a really good thing to show you're being like proactive and you want to kind of understand more about how the business works.
yeah,
Um,
yeah,
what else would I say? Also, there's like some really good resources. So things like Glassdoor, if you're going to an interview, the few grad scheme roles that I did interview for, I managed to find all of the interview questions on Glassdoor before I went in,
yes,
which was really good for prepping. So please do that.
yeah.
Um, and
Certainly
I
a good
guess you guys
resource.
have found the same in that a lot of them ask fairly similar questions. It might be in a slightly different way, but it's usually the same. So I try, if I've been to an interview, and any interview in general, to be fair, just write down the questions afterwards, so you've got like a bank and you're building your answers up and you're like more prepared for next time.
Yeah, that's a really good point, actually. Noting
Yeah, I'm
down
really
those.
excited for you.
Yeah, thank you, thank you. I mean, I'm nervous but excited at the same time. I've got kind of a lot of different opportunities I'm looking into, and lots of different roles. But yeah, it's hard sometimes to know which path you want to go down and things like that.
I
And
still don't know which path I want to go down. I
yeah,
think I'm getting there slowly, but there's
yeah,
still a few changes to be made.
Yeah, I guess you just learn through experience and things like that. You got
Yeah,
to
for
try
sure.
everything. Sure.
Yeah.
Um, so I was gonna also speak about um, the what was I going to speak about? I was going to speak about although a lot of um, graduates or a lot of people in my situation, I've done an internship, but a lot of people haven't gone through the process of going through the specific interview stages and things like that. I wondered if you could talk about kind of how your process kind of specifically worked, so or your experience through going for job interviews and things like that, because I know they can differ for different companies, maybe big or small. But I was
Yeah.
just wondering if you could talk about
Mine have really varied like across the board. So when I was at L'Oreal, even when I went back the second time and I'd had a recommendation, it was usually either a phone interview or a face-to-face interview, and then some sort of assessment day or task-based interview. And it was the same with Bare Minerals and ASOS. And I think it's actually good because it seems so daunting at the time, and like I don't think anyone enjoys doing it, but it really, I think, gives you a feel for what the company's like. And obviously
that.
it's as much about the company being a good fit for you as it is you being a good fit for the company. So I think just like
Sure,
really enjoy those if you can, and like if it's a good fit, people will be able to see that straight away.
certainly.
um yeah, I'm trying to think what else I had like a weird phone interview with multiple choice once, which was really bizarre. One of the
Yeah,
questions was like, how is having one sister shaped your life? And it was really strange.
it's a
um
very
but yeah,
specific question.
luckily I knew it was coming because I'd been on Glassdoor, so I had a very good answer.
Oh,
But
bro.
yeah, always do your prep.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. That that yeah, shows you really. Cool.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we've covered kind of all the questions that I'd originally planned for. Is there any kind of final words of advice or anything that you would like to let graduates know after um, kind of
um
looking?
I think just don't put pressure on yourself. I was very much like, I need to leave uni, I need to have a job straight away, I need to know where I'm going. But don't let it stress you out. Like what will be, and the opportunities will come. It's just sometimes you have to be patient, or maybe do something that you don't necessarily want to do as much first. But I think you actually learn so much along the way from that. So yeah, just enjoy it. Um,
Cool.
I'm
Well,
very jealous.
thank you, Emma. I really appreciate all of the kind of insights and hearing about your kind of your pathway through marketing. It's been really kind of helpful, especially um, kind of those tips about looking into the company and kind of thinking about what questions might come up, and then also once you're in the role, trying to kind of put forward ideas and things like that. I think that's all been pretty useful. So
Thanks.
yeah, thank
Thank
you
you for
so
having
much.
me.
No, thank you. So yeah, cool. Right. Yeah, that's good.